Okay, excellent. Well, I made it through my fishing trip on Lake Superior intact. It was ridiculously cold. I was wearing full middle of winter gear just to be on the boat. But I'm here. We're ready to go. I had a ton of messages when I got back this morning, or when I logged back on. And by far the most common thing that I got a question on was on your concept checks. So you're gonna be taking all those concept checks throughout the entire trimester. And often when they're self-grading, it doesn't work that well for math. Because there's always a lot of different ways you can write things, and it's still correct, But the self-grading thing doesn't always work great. So I had a ton of people sending me messages saying, can you check this quiz of mine just because I'm pretty sure I got it right even though it says it's wrong. Do know that I actually go through all the quizzes afterwards. I haven't yet because I didn't turn on the computer over the weekend at all. But I do. So like at the end of each chapter, I'll go through all the quizzes from that chapter, and I'll look for questions that should be correct that were marked wrong. And so there's a good chance a lot of you are going to get some points back. And if afterwards, if you aren't happy with your score and you want more, you can always retake it again because a lot of you don't use up all of your chances. So before we begin today, I guess this would be a good time to make sure you guys know or understand. I think it's in the resource folder for algebra. And on the very first day, I think it was, I put a calendar up there for you guys so that you would know our calendar for the whole trimester, because some of you have stuff to plan. Today is our actual last day of the chapter 1. Okay? So after 1.8, we're done with chapter 1. Tomorrow, we're going to work on our chapter review, and we're going to start our 4 graphs. Which, the graphs actually aren't that big a deal. They just, they're pretty quick to make. So the review is going to use up most of our hour. Now, traditionally, we would take the test the day after the review. We're not doing that this year because we're going at such a fast pace. Some of you kind of, get behind on accident for whatever reason. It's a variety of reasons. And I want you to have a chance to ask questions before you take your test. So what we're going to do is, tomorrow is the chapter review. Our chapter 1 test is going to be Thursday. So you're going to have a day after the review before you take the test. On Wednesday, we're going to start working on chapter 2, which obviously has nothing to do with the chapter 1 test. But we can't necessarily just take a day off until you have an extra day to get ready for the test. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm switching the beginning of chapter 2 and the test days and swapping them so that you guys get an extra day to take the test. I'll talk more about the test tomorrow when we're doing the review and everything for it. But I just wanted you to give a heads up on that from here on out, it's going to feel like we're going to be doing a chapter test a week because that's kind of how fast the pacing goes. So getting behind it's very easy. Like if you get sick or if you've got just something you have to do, it's just easy to get behind. So make sure that you make up your work. That's really all I'm trying to get to. It's easy to procrastinate. Try not to do that because otherwise you get really far behind really quick. I'll do my best to remind you. I'll send home reminders to your parents when you guys are behind so that they know where you're at. You can always turn work in, and I will always take it. So even if it says missing in the computer, I absolutely value the fact that you guys would do your work. So I will always give you full credit for your work after the fact, even if we're done. Like even if we're done with that chapter. If you still want to do the work, I will give you credit for it. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions I got from you guys over the weekend. I think that was the majority of it, though. It was about work and the concept checks mainly. So before I talk about today's work, was there a question somebody else had that maybe I didn't say yet that I forgot about? We are going to be doing the tests in Schoology. So I don't know if you've done that before or not, but I'll talk about it tomorrow, I guess. Okay, well then let's start today's. So we're doing the second half of 1.7. First half was on Friday. So the second half of 1.7 of example 3 and example 4. Example 3 is about combining like terms. And I know you've done this a ton of times, right? So if you have 12 of the x's and 30 of the x's, the number in the front is kind of like a counter to how many of them you have. So 12 of the x's plus 30 of the x's, well, that would be 42 of the x's. Now, the x's are called like terms. They have to have the exact same letter and power combination to be like terms. So like over here, 6.8 of the y squareds minus 1 of the y squareds. So these are like terms because they have the same letter, same power. So 6.8 minus 1 would be 5.8 of the y squareds. And then C. We got 4 of the n's plus 11 of the n squareds. These are not the same. They're the same letter, obviously, but they are not the same letter-power combination. They are considered different. So you cannot put them together. You cannot add or subtract them together, I should say, if they're different terms. So this one, the final answer is exactly the same as what you started with, because there's nothing to do. If you guys can, I'm sure you're relatively familiar with this, so that's why I wasn't taking a long time on it. Why don't you guys try these 3 questions right here, and then I can kind of call on 3 people to help me out. Don't forget, if you know decimals aren't your thing and they just confuse you, you guys are welcome to use your calculators. And you can even open up the one in your Chromebook. Logan, you can't see my screen. Am I not sharing it? Oh my goodness, I wasn't sharing it. Oh, I'm sorry. That does make it a lot harder for you to know what I'm even remotely talking about. Do you guys want me to start over and kind of explain for A, B, and C again? Okay. I suppose nobody even knew what 3 problems to try because you couldn't see them either. Okay, so I'll start with A again. So we have 12 of the x's plus 30 of the x's. And the x's are called like terms because they're the same letter and power combination. So we're going to add their numbers in the front because the number in the front just kind of basically says how many there are. So 12 plus 30 is 42 of the x's. B is the exact same thing, but the term is a y squared. And because they both are the same letter and power, we can combine them. So 6.8 minus 1 would be 5.8. On C, we've got 4 of the n's plus 11 of the n squareds. And they're both n's, except they're not the same powers. So because they have different powers, they're not like terms. And because of that, you can't combine them together. So when I say combine them together, you can't add and subtract them together. And so you just leave that answer as the same thing. And there's nothing to do, so that's the final answer. And that only happens when they're different terms. So I was hoping you guys could try A, B, and C. And this is where I was saying if you're not great at doing decimals in your head, you're welcome to use your calculator. I can't believe I forgot to turn on share the screen. Okay, so Logan, what I was calling on you to help me with A if you could. Did you figure that one out already? Perfect. Yep, you're right. I mean, you can explain it if you want, but yeah, absolutely perfect. 16 and the 24 together. Good. Gracie, did you figure out B? What'd you get? Excellent. Excellent. Callie, did you figure out C? What'd you get? Okay, perfect. And if they're not like terms, you can't put them together. Good. I mean, that's all the more there is to that. Okay, same topic, but this is just a little bit more to it. It's like the exact same kind of questions. But when you're working with problems, sometimes you have to simplify. So this is about simplifying and then combining during that simplifying. So let's look at, I only put one here because, I don't know, there isn't much different. Christian, do you remember what it means when there's like a number in front of a parentheses? What does that tell you to do? Yeah, yep, excellent. If there's a number in the front, it basically is telling you times everything on the inside. So take the 2 times the x, the 2 times the 6. The 3x wasn't in the parentheses, so you wouldn't multiply it times the 3x. And then we look for like terms. So I've got a 2x and a 3x. They're both x, like versions of x's. So 2x plus 3x would be 5x, and then the 12. And then that would be the simplified algebraic expression. This is how you're almost always going to see it. You're not normally going to see it when there's all sorts of letters and powers. You're normally going to see it when there's just different versions of the same thing. Why don't you guys see if you can do A and B on the side here in white? Let's see, Angelo, I don't know if you're, or no, AJ, I don't know if you're done with A or not. I'll try to put you in charge of A whenever you get there. Sophia, why don't I try to put you in charge of B? AJ, do you need me to kind of help you, know what to do with the 6 or anything like that? Oh, is it just 16x minus 15? I don't know. I didn't do it. So take the 6 times both. 6x minus 6 times 4 is 24 plus 9. Minus 24 plus 9 is, I think that's negative 15. Yeah. I think you said 16 on accident, but it's 6. Yep. Perfect. Okay, good. Sophia, how about on B? Do you want any help on that, or how'd that go for you? Close. So it's going to be negative 16. So you've got negative 12, negative 5, and then over here is like a plus 1. And then the 3, you were right with the 3y for sure. The 3y is totally separate. And it actually doesn't matter what order you write them, but most people just write the x first for alphabetical order. That's all. Does somebody want me to go over either one of those examples with you? Like maybe you got stuck on part of it. Okay, AJ, you figured out why it was 6 instead of 16? Okay. All right. So this is all from 1.7. So 1.7, that's the questions, the homework go really fast. So I saw a couple people already did all the homework for today. And it wasn't that many minutes after they logged in. I mean, it went pretty fast. 1.8 is going to be just as quick. For note purposes, it's slower to write these questions because there's more to write, but to do them is really fast. So here's what you're going to want to write out for 1.8. You're going to want to make like some kind of a little graph on your paper, and you don't even have to put too many numbers. You can probably just go like 5 by 5 or 4 by 4. So make a graph that's 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. And then we're going to put a whole bunch of points on this graph. And you can kind of see I have them labeled. Now, what I wrote in yellow and pink, if you don't remember what to do with the numbers inside of the parentheses, that would be a good idea for you to do. So this is the whole reason I wrote down the left, or the yellow and the pink, is to remind you what to do with each number. So this is going to be us saying where we're going to graph it. And I'll give you a minute to write this down before we start talking about it together. Oh, excuse me. Let's see, Jacob. Jacob, do you think we can kind of go through and do A together? Unless you remember a lot of it, and then you could just tell me what to do. But how would I graph the point 3, 4? And if there's parts you forgot, I can certainly just kind of walk you through it and help you with it. Okay. Rocio? Oh. Perfect. Now, I can't remember if I already asked you. I know you told me you pronounce it Rocio, right? Is that what you go by? Or is there like a nickname? Or... Okay. Sounds good. The way you explained it was perfect. So you start in the center. And then 3, 4 means you go 3 to the right, and then 4 up. And then this would be the point 3, 4. Instead of us writing 3, 4, we can just write M next to it because that's what it's labeled. And if you have graph paper, obviously it's easier on graph paper, but we'll go with that. Okay. Austin, where do I graph negative 2, 0. So, I mean, however you want to explain it. Go 2 left, mark it, perfect. So you go 2 to the left, and the 0 means you do not go up or down, so you mark it. This is N. Okay, good. P, negative 3, negative 1. So 3 to the left, 1 down. That would be P. 3 left, 1 down. R, 2, negative 4. 2 to the right, 4 down. So 2 to the right, 4 down. Now, if you need to make these little lines to help you out, you can. You definitely don't need to. For me, it's actually pretty hard for me to see where I am without doing that. But you definitely don't have to. So that's basically how you graph things. And I have a feeling if you guys forgot part of it, you probably just forgot a little bit, but otherwise you probably remember a good portion. Why don't you see if you can graph these white ones on the right-hand side by yourself quickly. Olivia, do you think you can tell me how to graph A and B? Perfect. 0 start with means you don't move left or right. So that's A. Okay, you meant it correct, but when you say over, it doesn't, you got to say right or something like that. I know that's what you meant. Yeah. Good. And Logan, do you think you can help me out with C and D? Or no, not Logan. Caleb. Logan, you went first. Caleb, do you think you can help me graph C and D? C is left 1, up 3. Perfect. Left 1, up 3. D is right 5. Yep, that's perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Very good. So, I mean, this basically covered every kind of different number there was, and so I wanted to make sure to have examples of all the different styles. There's a good chance you've done a lot of graphing in the past. Just want to make sure you remembered it, because a lot of you have had 5, 6 months with no math. Okay. One of these, does somebody have a question on one of these that are up there? Anything? Okay. Now this one's going to be probably a little bit harder to write in your notes, because it's going to be important that you write those letters in the correct spots. So I don't know what would be the best way to help you out. Would it help if I drew little dashes for how many, like the height? So 1, 2. That might make it more messy. Okay, there's 8 points on that graph. And we're going to do 2 things for each point. We're going to say what the coordinates are for the point. So like the numbers in the parentheses. And then we're going to say which quadrant they are in, which I have them labeled, so that part should be pretty easy, but still. So when we get to our quizzes and tests, don't forget, you guys are allowed to use your notes and everything on the quizzes and tests. So you writing down notes with this on here, that'll help you out a lot. Because you're going to directly get questions that say, which quadrant is this in? So that's why I wanted this in the notes. Let's see. AJ, why don't I put you in charge of point P? Austin, you'll be in charge of point Q. Callie, R. Christian, S. Gracie, T. Jacob, can you hear me this time? Perfect. I'll put you in charge of point U. Logan, let's have you do V, and Olivia, W. Now, I figure I'll try to give you a little bit of advance notice so you can just make sure to do yours to start with. But that's what I want to put you guys in charge of. Okay, so AJ, whenever you are ready, we're going to start you out with point P. And if you need to type it in, that's fine. So the point, the numbers, and then which quadrant it is in. P is 2 left and 3 down, which is true. But in terms of numbers, this would be the point -2, -3. So if somebody asks you for the coordinates, then you would just give them these numbers. And I think he said quadrant 3, which is correct. I mean, it's right by the words. You actually don't have to write the word quadrant 3. Because they put them in these Roman numerals, honestly, most people will immediately recognize what this stands for. Okay, Austin, how about Q? -3, 1, quadrant 2. -3, up 1, quadrant 2. Perfect. -3, 1, quadrant 2. Callie, did you figure out R? Right 3, mark it. I don't know the quadrant. Okay, what numbers do I put? The way you explained it to me, it was perfect. You said right 3, mark it. What numbers do I put in there, though? Perfect. Nice. Very nice. 3, 0. Now, you didn't know what quadrant to put because it's like in between two of them. I'm assuming that's why you said it. Does anybody know how we would answer this one? We're just leaving it up for anybody. If we're supposed to say which quadrant is R in, Christian? Oh. You unmuted yourself, so I thought you were trying to answer R. Okay. For R, you would say that it's not in a quadrant. Because it's directly in between two of them, it's not in one of them. Okay, S. What did you get for S? Good. Good, good. Quadrant? 4. Perfect. Gracie, I think you had T. 0, 3, not in a quadrant. Good. I know, they're actually by far the most annoying ones. Okay, well, at least those are our only two that are directly on the lines. Jacob, I think you had U. Okay. Did you figure out the numbers? Good, 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 good. 4, 4. Nice. What quadrant is that? Perfect. Nicely done. I think it went to Logan next for V. Good. Good. And W, I know this was a lot of points. I just wanted to make sure to have a couple examples of like all the different things. I think Olivia has the last one on W. Quadrant. Good. All right, nice. Very good. If you guys have that figured out, there's nothing more to it. There's nothing more complicated it can be. So that was good. That was really good. This is actually going even faster than I was expecting because it's going so well. This is the end. So this is the end of chapter 1. It's generating and graphing ordered pairs. So you're going to need to make a little graph that's like 4 by 4. And we're going to make a table. And that's how we're going to figure out our points. So we're just told an equation. We're not told numbered. We're not given numbers and points. So I'll give you kind of a minute to get this part written out. Sophia, we're going to go with you first. Hardest question of the day. Are you ready? What day is the test on? Ah! There you go. Nice job. I just wanted to make sure you guys... It's super easy to forget all these details just because there's so much stuff being thrown at you guys. Test is Thursday. Good. Very good. And I wanted to emphasize that so that you guys took it Thursday. The faster you guys can get all the tests taken, the faster that I can get them back to you. Because I can't go over the test with you guys until everybody takes them. Okay, nice job, Sophia. You off guard there. Rocio, your question. Now, I gave you these numbers over here. The ones that I'm highlighting in pink. 0, 1, 2, 3. Why do you think I picked those numbers? Because you're not going to be given numbers necessarily. Sometimes you'll be told what x values to use. Sometimes you won't. Why do you think I picked 0, 1, 2, 3? Rocio. Oh. Yep, that's pretty much it. 0, 1, 2, 3 is probably going to be the easiest numbers you could use. That was pretty much my main reasoning. You could have used a -1 instead of 3, because then you could have kept them smaller. That would have been fine. I basically just tried to pick the most straightforward, simple numbers I could. So if you guys have to pick your own numbers, pick the easiest ones. All right, so we're going to fill this out. So y is equal to 2x minus 3. That's what we're told. That's what it says. So if I know x is 0, y is going to be 2 times the x. So 2 times 0 minus 3. 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 3 is -3. 1. Y is going to be 2 times the x value minus 3. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 3 is -1. 2 times 2 minus 3. So obviously this is the pattern. We're putting this number in place of x. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 times 3 minus 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. Okay. Caleb. What point do I get out of this whole thing of information? Like, what is the point going to be? Where would I put it on the graph? Yep, perfect. The x value, the y value. 0, negative 3. This one is going to be 1, negative 1. The x and the y are the numbers that go there. So that's how we get our points out of this table. And so then I would just put them on this graph up here. 0, negative 3 is middle down 3. 1, negative 1. 2, 1. 3, 3. And conveniently, well, they make a line. You know what? I'm going to cheat because I just flat out am bad at drawing lines on this thing. Well, that didn't help at all. Where's my mouse? Can't grab it with the... And here's the biggest, teacher pro tip. Make your points bigger, and then they hit the line. I'm a perfect artist. Okay, good. I can give you one of these to try on your own if you want. Otherwise I can stop here and let you guys head to work. Your choice. Does anybody have an opinion? Or maybe I should ask, is there somebody who would like me to make an exam for you to try on your own? All right. I will stop.